In the year 1974, a frail figure emerged from the dense jungles of the Philippines. He was clad in the tattered remnants of an Imperial Japanese Army uniform, his hands still gripping a rifle that had not seen a day of peace. He had come not in defeat, but to formally surrender. To the rest of the world, World War II had been a closed chapter of history for nearly 3 decades, a conflict resolved in 1945. But for this man, the war had never ended. He had been fighting a phantom war, a private battle against time itself, for 29 long years. This soldier was Second Lieutenant Hiroo Onoda, an intelligence officer of the Imperial Japanese Army. His story begins not in the jungle, but in a military training school in 1944, as the tides of war turned decisively against Japan. He was a young man, barely 22, chosen for a mission that would seal his fate. His orders were absolute, drilled into him with the unyielding certainty of a nation at war. He was to be deployed to the small, strategic island of Lubang in the Philippines. His mission was to conduct guerrilla warfare, to disrupt the enemy, and to hold the island at all costs. But the most crucial command was the one that would echo through the next 3 decades of his life. You are absolutely forbidden to die by your own hand. It may take 3 years, it may take 5, but whatever happens will come back for you. Until then, so long as you have one soldier, you are to continue to lead him. You may have to live on coconuts. If that's the case, live on coconuts. Under no circumstances are you to give up your life voluntarily. He was ordered to never surrender, to never take his own life, and to wait indefinitely for reinforcements. As American forces swept through the Philippines, Onoda and a small group of soldiers retreated deep into the island's mountainous interior. A rugged and unforgiving landscape of dense forests and steep ravines. This jungle would become their fortress, their prison, and their world for the next 29 years. It was the only reality they knew. They survived by their wits and their training, living off the land, foraging for fruit, and occasionally stealing cattle and rice from local villagers, whom they viewed as hostile collaborators. To them, every shadow held a potential enemy. Every unfamiliar sound was a sign of impending attack. Their lives were a constant state of high alert, a cycle of vigilance and survival against a world they believed was still at war with them. The world outside, however, had moved on. Leaflets were dropped from planes, declaring Japan's surrender in bold print. Newspapers were left behind, detailing the end of the war and the beginning of a new era of peace. Relatives' voices crackled through loudspeakers, pleading with them to come home. But for Onoda, these were all elaborate tricks, clever pieces of enemy propaganda designed to lure him into a trap. His training had taught him to be wary of deception, and in the isolation of the jungle, his suspicion festered into an unshakable conviction. Every attempt to communicate the truth was dismissed as a fabrication, a test of his resolve. His orders were to hold his post, and he would follow them to the letter. The years ground on, measured not in calendar days, but in rainy seasons and the slow decay of their equipment. The jungle was a relentless adversary. Tropical diseases, malnutrition, and the constant psychological strain took their toll. One by one, Onoda's comrades fell. One man, unable to bear the isolation, surrendered to the Philippine police. 2 others were killed in clashes with local patrols who, to Onoda, were enemy combatants, but in reality, were just people defending their homes and livestock. By 1972, after a final, fatal skirmish, Hiroo Onoda was completely alone. Yet, his resolve did not waver. The loss of his last companion only hardened his belief that the war was still raging, that the enemy was closing in. He was the last soldier on Lubang Island, the final guardian of a forgotten outpost, and he would not fail his duty. Then, in the winter of 1974, the world that had forgotten Hiroo Onoda suddenly found him. A young Japanese backpacker, an adventurer named Norio Suzuki, had set out on a quest. His life's ambition was to find Lieutenant Onoda, a panda, and the abominable snowman, in that order. Against all odds, he succeeded in his first goal. After weeks of trekking through the jungle, calling out Onoda's name, he stumbled upon a makeshift camp. There, he came face to face with the ghost of World War II. Onoda, wary and armed, was initially hostile. But Suzuki was patient. He spoke of a modern Japan, of bullet trains and economic miracles, of a world so profoundly different from the one Onoda had left behind. He showed him that the war was, in fact, over. Yet, even with this direct, human proof, Onoda's conditioning was too deep. He could not simply lay down his arms. He had been given an order by his commanding officer, and only that same officer could relieve him of his duty. He agreed to surrender, but only on one condition. His former commander, Major Yoshimi Taniguchi, must come to Lubang and give the order in person. The request seemed impossible. Major Taniguchi was now an elderly man, a civilian working in a bookstore, a relic from a buried past. But when the Japanese government located him, he did not hesitate. The old general, now over 80, understood the profound weight of the promise made to his young lieutenant 3 decades earlier. Major Taniguchi flew to the Philippines and was taken deep into the jungle to a prearranged meeting spot. There, in a small clearing, history held its breath. Hiroo Onoda, in his carefully preserved but tattered uniform, stood at attention. He presented a formal salute to the man who had sent him on this mission 30 years before. Major Taniguchi, with the full weight of his authority, read the order of surrender. The mission was over. Onoda was formally relieved of his duty. With solemn ceremony, Hiroo Onoda surrendered his Arisaka rifle, his samurai sword, a family heirloom, and 500 rounds of ammunition, all of which had been meticulously maintained and were still in perfect working order. His war was finally over. His return to Japan was a national spectacle. He was hailed as a hero, a modern-day samurai who embodied the lost virtues of loyalty, discipline, and unwavering devotion to duty. Crowds gathered to catch a glimpse of this man who was a living embodiment of their nation's past. Yet, for Onoda, the homecoming was a profound culture shock. He found himself in a Japan he no longer recognized, a world of consumerism and pacifism that was alien to the values he had upheld for 30 years. When a journalist later asked if he felt he had wasted 3 decades of his life in the jungle, his response was immediate and without a trace of regret. "I did not waste them," he stated. "I fulfilled my orders. That is my pride." The story of Hiroo Onoda transcends the simple narrative of a soldier lost in time. It is a profound and unsettling meditation on the nature of belief, the power of duty, and the invisible prisons we can build for ourselves. It forces us to examine the lines we draw between loyalty and obsession, between steadfastness and delusion. His life became a testament to the incredible resilience of the human spirit, but also a cautionary tale about what happens when we cling to our orders, our beliefs, and our personal wars long after their purpose has expired. It leaves us with a haunting question, one that echoes from the jungles of Lubang to the complexities of our own lives. What orders are you still following long after the war is over?